Hi guys, welcome to Ask Jessi Kneeland. The question that I have today is from Anonymous. Lately I've been staying up super late watching Netflix. I don't even know why I do it, but I end up so tired the next day. Any advice? Anonymous. So I get asked this question in a lot of different ways. Sometimes it's like, I've been binge eating, I don't know why. I've been drinking too much, I don't know why. I've been fill in the blank, I don't know why I do it. People say I'm self-sabotaging. Why am I being like this? I know better and I don't take action on it. Why? The main thing I'd like to say about this is that these are coping mechanisms. And the funny thing in our culture is that when we talk about coping mechanisms, we tend to think of like big fucking scary shit. We're like, oh, well, like there was a giant death in the family, so she's like going through coping mechanisms right now. Or she just lost her job, so like, yeah, she's coping. But no, we cope with whatever we don't have the skills to deal with properly. So these kinds of coping mechanisms I call numbing behaviors, and the way that they help us cope with whatever it is that we need help coping with is that they remove us from the personalization of the situation. And that personalization is like however you feel. So your numbing behaviors help remove you from the situation of feeling shitty somehow. There's something that feels bad. Numbing those feelings is a coping mechanism. And the only reason we numb those feelings with coping mechanisms is because we don't have the skills yet to deal with them directly. If we had the skills, we would just fucking do it. So like, let's say all this shame that people feel, like why was this exact one? I'm staying up late watching Netflix, why am I doing this? So there's shame in that question, or else it wouldn't have been asked. Or rather, I'm assuming there's shame because often I'm asked from people who have shame, like, why am I binge eating? Why am I doing this? I'm self-sabotaging, what the hell? There's shame in that question, but there's not really shame in the answer, because basically the answer is you're doing that because you don't have the skills to cope with something. So it's really important to me when I talk to people about what's going on for them that we remove the shame from the equation. If you are consistently relying on numbing behaviors such as Netflix, binge eating, drinking, smoking a lot of pot, shopping excessively, gambling, whatever it is for you, if you're relying on those behaviors to make it through your life, something in your life is requiring coping. And that is not a judgment on you. That is not something that we are taught how to deal with our lives. I wish it was. I wish it was like home ec and how to deal with our feelings and lives, but it's not. So like, you were never taught this. There is no shame in the fact that you're finding yourself coping in ways that are second to what you really need. However, coping is super fucking useful. So if you don't have those skills yet and you didn't have coping mechanisms, you'd implode. You'd go crazy. So that's why I love coping mechanisms. I don't think that they are what you ultimately want. And I know that you don't think they're what you ultimately want, because I get questions like this into my inbox all the time. However, they are what you have right now. So the first thing is to remove shame from the entire situation. To say, I am not embarrassed that I'm coping right now, but rather, what am I coping with? What are you coping with that requires numbing so hard at the end of the night that you watch Netflix until it's way too late and you're exhausted the next day on a consistent basis? What is that you're running away from? Because Netflix can be totally nourishing and awesome sometimes, but when you're consistently using it as a numbing behavior to escape, you can call it an escapism behavior, you're running away from something, and we have to figure out what that something is, or you'll never be able to stop. You can't just willpower your way out of these things. This is one thing all my clients are like, I have no willpower. I can't stop binge eating. I have no willpower. It's not willpower. It's an issue of not actually getting something you need and just needing the coping mechanism instead. So here we've got a coping mechanism. I want to know what you're running away from. And that applies for all of you in any situation where you are finding yourselves self-sabotaging or not having enough willpower. What are you running away from? Are you afraid of your failures? Are you afraid of your power, your success? Are you afraid of your sadness, of your loneliness? Are you afraid of your anger and rage? Like there's so many things that we are trying to escape from because we never learned how to properly deal with them. So the first thing you can do when you find yourself engaging in numbing behaviors or coping mechanisms of any kind is address the actual cause, name it, give it specific, vivid, accurate language. Not just like, well, I don't want to feel my feelings. People say emotional eating. Tell me what that emotion is. Are you eating because you're lonely? Or are you eating because you're angry? Those are two really different reasons to eat. And when we talk about like trying to heal emotional eating, it matters which emotion you're eating for, because it matters what the real problem is that you are trying to numb. So get super clear, write it down, say it out loud to someone. Say to a safe source, a therapist or a friend or me or somebody in a community that you trust of people who are doing this kind of work. Say, hey, I've been noticing that I'm numbing my blank with blank lately. And just have them hear it. Have them hear you say it as specifically and accurately and vividly as possible. See what happens. See if that shame lifts a little. See if it dissolves a little bit. Because ultimately, this question is about how do I stop doing this thing? And the only way you can stop doing it is when you identify why you're doing it and then replace the skill set that you have right now. Your skill set is coping, with a skill set that gives you what you need without coping, which means learning how to deal with anger, learning how to tolerate sadness, learning how to connect with people so you're not lonely, learning how to connect with people so that you have support, whatever it is that you're missing, that you need, that's not getting met, that coping mechanisms are filling in a placemat for, like a holding space, that's where your work is. So get really specific. If you don't know, just try to stream of consciousness it out. Sit and write in your journal and just go, go, go. See what comes up and see where you land with it, because some part of you knows. Always some part of you knows, and it will come out. So that's my answer. I hope this is helpful. Please leave me a comment. And as always, feel free to shoot me your questions to the contact form at jessikneeland.com, and I will answer your Ask Jessi Kneeland question if I can.